Welcome to the special broadcast of Goza TV. We're here at Cape Town City Hall looking forward to the State of the Nation address tonight at 7 p.m. that will be addressed by our President Cyril Ramaphosa. And in studio today, we've got the Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni. Minister, welcome to Goza TV.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, if we can start with issues in the environment, we understand that particularly in the city of Joburg, there are issues around water supply. If Minister can give us an overview of the interventions that government is bringing in that area.
So it's not the city of Johannesburg only, it's actually a Gauteng issue. You've got city of Tshwane, city of Johannesburg, city of Ekurhuleni, and the president yesterday dispatched the Minister of Water, Sanitation and her deputy minister, and also the Minister of Culture to go to assist in that area. But the water shortage is a national issue. And it's for that reason that during the 6th administration, we started to make legislative amendments that will enable national government to make interventions into the water problem due to local government capacity. And in the 7th administration, we included water reforms as part of addressing the water challenge, and linked to that was the local government interventions. The President this afternoon will then articulate what are the interventions that are going to be made, both in the short term, medium term and long term, accepting that the water problems cannot be resolved overnight, but there can be an alleviation of the problems in the immediate and in the medium term, in the short and medium term, and also in the long term, how we plan to eradicate the water problems of the country. So that is one of the interventions, and sending the ministers there was to make sure we get a feel of what's happening on the ground, why the interventions that were being made are not working, but also how do we then strengthen that. But we are doing a full kick on Operation Vulindlela in those interventions.
Thank you, Minister, for that. And I think we're also going to see the water reform bill bring in a lot of change, as you have alluded to the fact that government is going to take this issue seriously. And I think maybe, Minister, just a call to action for citizens on what is it that they can do on their part to also assist government while it's working on the reforms.
So the major issue now is the high demand for water. So we need to, all of us, to reduce the demand for water. We need to use water sparingly. We cannot water our gardens. We know it's hot, but watering the gardens cannot be. We can't refill the swimming pools. Those who have swimming pools through the taps, we need to order in the water for refilling the swimming pools, so that we can get a lowering of demand. We need to also make sure that those of us who come across a leaking pipe, we report it. We can't leave the pipes dripping, so that we can fight to reduce the demand. The demand that is currently being consumed across the country is very high. In Gauteng, for instance, Rainwater have indicated that the demand is too high, and even if they increase the demand, because of the problems with the water, the reticulation infrastructure, those pipes will burst because the pressure will just be too high. So we need to reduce the demand as citizens. But the President will articulate the interventions that are being made, not only for Gauteng metros, but also across the country as we deal with the water issues. You recall, Naisna is now in day zero. Other municipalities, they have not had water for long periods. The President will articulate that, but the commitment is that it's part of the Operation Vulindlela Phase 2 reforms, and you know that when we put the reforms, you know how pedantic and how diligent and how focused we go into making sure that we achieve the targets of the reforms.
Thank you, Minister. And can we move now to the foot and mouth disease that has really plagued the agricultural sector? There are interventions there. If Minister can just outline what are the medium-term or short-term interventions that will assist with this challenge.
It's a number of issues. The President will also speak on those in that detail, but you are aware that we have rebuilt our capacity of the ARC and on the spot to do the foot and mouth vaccines. And though we will not be able to have enough numbers, there will be measures to get enough vaccines so that we can vaccinate the national head. So the President will articulate, because we need to deal with that situation before there was a time South Africa was FMD free. We need to go back to the status, and that work has to be done to get us back to that status, and they will be diligent about it. But we'll work with the commercial farmers, we'll work with all the farming communities, because it does not only affect our national security, food security, but it also going to impact on the prices of food, because if you don't have beef, it's part of the staples, and I'm sure there are people of the Eastern Cape and KZN, I'm sure they can't live without beef, but it's going to affect the food prices if it's not handled, but also our export, because we are a big exporters of beef. So it's going to affect our trade and our economic growth. So we need to attend to this. The president will articulate the details of that.
Okay, thank you, Minister. If we can move to issues of crime and corruption, I mean, government has made a lot of strides in this issue. The JCPS cluster will also be launching the integrated crime prevention strategy, and the Civil Secretariat of Police is also engaging communities, I think, since from last year. Where is it that we see government really propelling curbing problems around crime and corruption?
So specifically on crime, you'll recall that in the previous administration we launched Operation Chanela from the JCPS to deal with petty crimes and whatever, and we have dealt a number a blow. We have had significant reduction in the crime levels in those areas, and now the focus is shifting to dealing with organized crime, including illicit trade. And we have finalized a strategy on organized crime, and we are not saying that strategy is perfect. We're going to continuously improve and update it and deploy the resources concomitant to that strategy, and the president will articulate that. But key to that is the work that has to be done to decontaminate the criminal justice system of criminality or being run by organized crime, which has resulted in the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry. And the president has started to announce measures of how do we do the decontamination, starting at SAPS, and he'll announce further measures from based on the interim report of how we clean up that system quicker, not only and make sure that the criminal justice system is fit for purpose to deal with crime at an organized level, and we chase the big guys and make sure that we succeed in the fight against crime.
Okay, thanks, Minister. We also know that crime is not only the responsibility of government, it's also the responsibility of citizens. What is it that you can say to citizens who, when they walk into a particular government office or a private institution, and they're being asked for a bribe, or they're being asked to cut corners and participate in some sort of criminal activity? What would you say to those citizens?
Actually, is not even them being asked to pay, is the citizens offering. When you say to a traffic officer, no, my brother, I know I was speeding, or I have an outstanding traffic, but yes, cold drink, that is corruption. And so we need to also play our part to make sure we don't encourage corrupt activities amongst our people. But the fight against crime is also because we know that we know the criminals. Whether it's a petty criminal, it's a thief. Some of them are our children, some of them are our sisters and brothers, some of them they are our family members. What do we do when you accept a gift knowing that this child cannot afford this gift? What do we do? We need to report them to the police so that they can be dealt with. And we know we're saying, oh, what about they'll have a criminal record? Yeah, they are criminals. So they need to have a criminal record so that we can stop the fight against crime. The GBVF, for example, as part of the crimes. GBVF is also a societal issue. It's me knowing that my brother is abusing his wife, my cousin is abusing his wife, my neighbor is abusing the wife, and I keep silent. Government will come in a reactive mode. It's me who must say to my sister-in-law, to my sister, to myself, I need to go and report this crime. I need to report, but government must build measures to make sure that there is, how do you call it? There's conducive environment that I'll feel safe reporting, that perpetrator will be, I know that when I've reported, I'm not going to be given the interdict and say, go and give him yourself. The police will do their part. We need to put support structures to build confidence in women and children to can report the crime of GBVF, but also as a community we need to fight it. We need to say, in my language they say, it cannot be, which simply means you must tolerate whatever difficulties you find in a marriage. It cannot be. When that will mean I die. And the families, we must move away to say, you walk away. You know, when it starts to spill over, you walk away before it even spills over. If it shows you signs that that pot that is cooking in is not going to be sufficient, we need to walk away and give the confidence, but know that you've got a support system, you've got a Tutuzela Care Center you can go to. That's why it's important to create employment for women and for the youth, so that those opportunities, I don't have to stay in a relationship because I'm looking for something to look, for somebody to look after me. I'll be thinking, where would I find the food? No, how will I be able to do my hair? How will I be able to pay for my lipstick, for my clothes, for my shelter? I need to know that my own salary, my own income, I'll be able to provide for myself. But also know that if that father of that child is not maintaining my child, or I can go to a maintenance court and quickly there will be an interim intervention that allows me to get child maintenance, and me and my children can walk away from that relationship that is not. So that's part of what the society must come to. But also, the criminal networks are known to us. What is being revealed in the Matlanga Commission, it has been, some citizens were knowing, but nobody was reporting. Institutions such as IPID were meant for citizens to report and complain, and those things get investigated. And the work that has to be done, and which government is doing, which the president will articulate on, is how are we going to strengthen the institutions that will hold the criminal justice system accountable to make sure that they do not go out of line. We can commit to the fight against crime and organized crime in particular, and we win that fight.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. I think that's apt for citizens out there, and it's information that they can take to go and empower their lives. Now, going to freight logistics, I mean, we've seen a good story around Istimela Sabantu. Our trains are back on track and they're doing well. But if Minister can just explain to us how the freight logistics is going to also assist the economy in recovering, and our imports and exports also really going up to really create more jobs.
Actually, let's start by the passenger rail and the commuter services that are back online. And what's important is not just the trains being back online, it's also what it means for the cost of travel, because majority of the low and middle income groups in the country were spending a lot of money on commuting between home and work. But now with the trains available and the safety, the standard, people are now using is I go into a train, not the fancy how train, the ordinary train, and move from point A to point C, because that is cheaper. It's on my pocket. You cut the price of commuter travel in a day by 75%. So you are paying 25% of what you would have paid on travel using a train. And that's part of reducing the cost of living for South Africans. It means the money you save in commuting, you can then move it into something else in the household. But also importantly, the strengthening of the work in Transnet, the ability now, the decongestion of the ports and ability to export quicker. It's improving our ability to get exports out of the country and do it in a cheaper. There are other interventions that are being made. You've seen the improvements in the rail lines, the performance that is being done, but also the fact that we are ready to go out and get private partners to also participate, so that where Transnet does not have capacity, you can have, and then you can have additional players. I think the Minister of Transport last year announced 4 corridors that we are commissioning, include the iron ore, the chrome, I can't remember the others, but which we are going to concession to private players to work and support the work that Transnet is doing. It's important, the ability to take out your goods out of the country, or to move your goods to the harbor, to the ports. It talks directly to the ability of the economy to grow, more especially when we are ramping up our capacity as a manufacturing economy. And we're no longer only exporting ore, but we're also exporting processed products. And you saw the agreement signed by the Minister of Trade and Industry with China in terms of improving trade, and that it means we can export quicker. You've seen our nectarines or the stone fruit arrived in China, I think this week early, in large volumes, because we have that capacity in our ports to take them out. That progress is part of the focus that the president set in terms of the reforms that are critical in rebuilding the economy. As a result of that, we're starting to see our economic growth projections going higher, not only said by our National Treasury, because you'll say we're biased, but also said by by the IMF, said by others, the numbers are getting higher. And we've seen growth, the GDP growth, consecutive quarters of GDP growth. We've seen the employment increasing, more than 1 million employment opportunities, more in jobs. We still need more. We're not yet there, but at least we are, the progress is starting to show. So we need to say, how do we focus and how do we speed up those reforms to make sure that we get to where we've set ourselves to, if not at the time that we've set ourselves, but earlier than the target time that we've set ourselves. So those are the improvements we're making, and we must also applaud ESCOM for the work they've done in load shedding. And as we get to work on the transmission company and building the transmission lines, is to make sure that there will be stability in the electricity. The president will also articulate what are the plans to bring more players in the renewable space, but also to strengthen, to firm up our progress with the set reforms on the energy sector.
Minister, lastly, South Africans will be going to the polls for the local government elections this year. And we have seen, earlier in our conversation, we did talk about water, but I think there are issues also around waste management, there are issues around housing, etc. If Minister can just give us an overview of what is it that needs to happen at local government and what maybe is being focused on in terms of ensuring that that sector services the people, but also the different working groups in eThekwini, in Gqeberha, and in Gauteng have also been part of Operation Vulindlela, the local government reforms, to really make sure that government zooms into the sector and ensure that citizens are happy with provisions of services.
So it's not about the local government reforms, it's not about the elections that are coming. It's about the realization and that if local government doesn't function, the entirety of government does not function, because they're the sphere closest to the people. And therefore you need local government to have capacity to deliver services, and to deliver services that are critical to the people when it matters at the time that it matters. It's for that reason we are reviewing the local government white paper to make sure that we can then build the necessary capacities in local government. It's for that reason that we have made different interventions, but at the core of it is the focus on making sure we build that capacity as part of building a capable developmental state in South Africa that will deliver services. Because South Africans don't see a local government, they don't see a national government, they don't see a provincial government, they see government. So if houses are not being delivered, they will not say that local municipality does not have capacity to deliver houses because it's not their mandate, it's in a provincial government department. They say, no, government is not delivering houses. And now we had floods in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga, and Northern KZN. We had previously had floods in the Eastern Cape and in KZN. We need to make sure that when we rebuild the infrastructure, we build it in a manner that is sustainable and that it is disaster resilient. And for that to happen, it will mean you need engineering capacity at local government, not only to deal with water, but also to deal with the spatial planning component, to say you need proper planners who will coordinate with engineers to say what type of infrastructure do we need, whether it's the public infrastructure, whether it's a housing infrastructure. We had recently a summit on innovative technologies, building innovative technologies led by human settlement, that we need to start adopting that and put them there. But also, you need local government to be able to say, this is a flood line, whether it's a 50-year flood line, a 100-year flood line, and take a decision that those who are residing within the flood line, they have to be removed. It's not going to be an easy decision, it's going to be a painful decision, but that decision will save lives, will also minimize devastation in the future, because the natural disasters, given the climate change, are still going to happen, but we need to future-proof ourselves from the negative impact and minimize that impact to the best available, to the most minimal devastation that our communities can suffer. And paramount to that is that there should not be a loss of life because somebody was washed away. So again, even in that, we need cooperation of citizens. We need to pay for municipal services that we receive, but municipalities must also bill us for the services that they give us. We need to work a system that makes sure that it's a partnership as we deliver. We need to say, if these are the special plans of a municipality, it means the traditional leadership must also, as another a core of government, must come to the party. They can no longer demarcate sites on their own. We need to say, how do we get the municipalities and town planners, land surveyors to help traditional authorities to demarcate sites in the areas that are not under the jurisdiction of municipalities, so that our special plans can be fully integrated and disaster resilient. But key of that requires a capable, capacitated, skilled local government. And that's what is important, and that's work it's at NS, including the review of the white paper on local government.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you for coming to our studio and really engaging with us and our audience that is live on TikTok. We really appreciate your time. Does Minister have a parting shot?
We want South Africans to use the opportunity of the SONA as a feedback from the work that has been done, but also as we progress towards our development set targets, that they must see that and give us a review of that and interact with government as part of that partnership of saying we want to build South Africa together, and say, in these plans, what is my role and contribution? And we must do that as we celebrate 70 years of the Women's March, 50 years of the Youth Uprising, and 30 years of our Constitution, because the actions of our forebears, which have resulted in our Constitution, calls on us to partner with government to make sure we build a better South Africa together.